Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Yeah, we're ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
We copy you loud and clear. How us?
I copy you loud and clear. You sound great. Please stand by for opening remarks.
I'm Dr. Picarillo, Superintendent of Newton, and we're over the moon to join the Andover and Green communities for this downlink. NASA is central to our Tri-District's legacy. We're the alumni of Nobel Prize-winning NASA physicist Dr. John Mather, and thrilled to host our second downlink since 2012. The event aligns with America's anniversary, the excitement of Artemis II, but beyond that, it highlights our smallness in a vast world and teaches the humility and empathy we strive to instill in our students. Now I'll pass it to them.
Hello, my name is Skylar, and my question is, when you are in space, does it ever turn into a new normal for you mentally and physically, or are you always trying to get used to being in space?
Thanks for the question, Skylar. Yeah, it actually does kind of turn into a new normal. For me, it took a couple of weeks before you kind of get used to floating around and being in microgravity, But yeah, then after a couple weeks when you wake up in the morning, it just feels kind of normal to be floating to get your morning cup of coffee. The one thing that still never fully feels normal to me, though, is looking out the window at our Earth. I mean, every time I do that, I kind of still get goosebumps, and I'm really glad that that doesn't quite feel normal yet.
Hello, my name is Eliana. My question is, how does your body adapt when returning to Earth's atmosphere?
Well, I can tell you that returning to Earth doesn't feel great, and I know this because I've done it once before. This is my second flight, so on my first flight, when I went back to Earth, I said something often, and I said, gravity is overrated, because it did not feel good. We were so used to weightlessness, and our bodies were so used to that. I was up here for 7 months, and then when you come down, you really feel the weight of gravity, and you just feel like you're being pushed down into the floor like the bully on the playground pushing down on your head. But your body adapts after a little bit of time, and it gets back to normal, but it doesn't feel great when you first get back.
Hello, my name is Lucas, and my question is, what are the most useful skills learned during your training on Earth that are implemented most on the International Space Station?
Thanks for the question, Lucas. So I think far and away the most important skill that we learn and practice in our training on Earth is teamwork. Up here, we are part of a really big team, not just with our other astronauts who are up here on the space station, but with people in mission control and ground centers and scientists and engineers all over the world. And, the work that we get done up here only gets done because we can all work together to make the science and the experiments and the engineering happen. And so, there's a lot of technical skills, a lot of, skills with tools and things like that that we learn, but teamwork is by far and away the most important one.
Hi, my name is Elsie, and my question is, what surprised you most about being in space?
We are very well trained before we get up here, so for a lot of things, they're not that big surprises. But the one thing that you really can't train is just how it feels to live and work in microgravity all the time, to get used to everything floating, to not be able to put something down in front of you. So it's quite surprising. Even though you know that you should expect it when you get here, it's still pretty surprising to experience it, and it takes a little while to adapt to that.
Hi, my name is Sam. And my question is, what's the coolest thing you've ever seen in space?
That's a really great question, and I would say it's maybe a tie. I did get a chance to see some really incredible northern lights or aurora outside of the window where the sky was just glowing green and red, and that was really incredible. But maybe the coolest thing was when some of my friends came up to join me on the International Space Station, and I got to see the look in their eyes on the first time that they'd been in space and the first time they got to look out of the window. That was pretty cool.
Hello, my name is Audrey, and my question is, what's something about space that gives you hope for the future of humanity?
I have hope for the future of humanity when I am able to look down at the Earth and to understand the perspective that gives us as humans when we see it from up here. We see that it is all interconnected and that we have one planet and that we're all in this together. And looking at that with my friends and my colleagues and a group of international astronauts and cosmonauts up here, all from different countries, we're working together and showing humanity what great things can be accomplished when we decide to put away our differences and focus on what an amazing goal and mission we can accomplish in common if we set our minds to it. And that gives me hope for the future.
Hi, my name is Autumn, and my question is, what is something not everyone realizes about being an astronaut?
Well, one thing that people don't realize about being an astronaut is I've been up on the space station for 7 months now, and I haven't worn shoes for 7 months, because in space, you just float around in your socks all day. And actually, the tops of your feet get really tough because you use your feet to kind of stabilize and hook under different handrails to hold you in place. So, we don't wear shoes.
Hello, my name is Eliana. My question is, what are the long-term physical changes to astronauts after microgravity?
Well, thankfully, most of these changes that we experience in microgravity are quite reversible when we go back down to Earth, and we just have to readapt to that gravity. There are some things, though, that are quite hot topics right now that we're trying to research, and those are some changes to our eyes. So some astronauts, including me, after my first flight, have some changes to their vision and also changes to the anatomy in the back of the eye. And we want to make sure that we understand these things so that we can keep astronauts healthy on their missions and when they come home as well. So far, we don't really have anything that are like permanent physical changes. We do kind of get right back into normal life when we get back there, but these things we are paying more attention to better understand.
Hi, my name is Jake. My question is, what's something about living on the International Space Station that you didn't even realize would be challenging until you experienced it?
Thanks, Jake. So one of the things that I think is one of the biggest challenges up here is not losing things and keeping track of little bags. On Earth, when you open a box and it has 10 different Ziploc bags in it, you can kind of just search through it and find one. Here, you open a box with 10 Ziploc bags in it, they immediately all start floating away. And boy, it is really hard to keep track of things. I had a drink that I put down on the table and it floated away. It took me a week to find.
Hi, my name is Calum, and my question is, how can experiments on the space station be used to improve technologies or materials we study here on Earth?
A lot of the research that we do up here applies not only to astronauts and space travel and the future of space travel, but also to life back on Earth. And a couple examples of that. First of all, protein crystal growth experiments. We can grow protein crystals up here that are larger and more pure. And so what that allows scientists to get imaging that they can better elucidate and discover binding sites for certain therapies, for therapeutic agents on proteins. So basically that's pharmaceuticals, different drugs for different disease states like Alzheimer's, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And we've actually had some clinical trials that are in work now and have already been completed in the past based on the work that we've done up here on the International Space Station. So we are able to develop new drugs that can be used by patients back on Earth because of the microgravity environment.
Hi, my name is Renner. My question is, has being physically separated from Earth and still seeing it every day changed your sense of what home actually means? And do you think that shift stays with you after you return?
That's a really great question. I think it has. One of the things that seeing the Earth from the window here, you see just how thin and small our layer of atmosphere is. And, we fly over our home cities, pretty frequently. And you can kind of look down and see a city that's really small and realize that there's so many people down there that you love and care about and that they're all right there. And so I think for me, it really highlights how small our Earth is, how together our Earth is, and how we're all in this together, and how it's just such a special place. And I think that I thought the Earth was a special place before I flew up here, and now I'm going home and I think it's even more special. I think that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
Hi, my name is Jack. My question is, what's something you tried on the space station just to see what would happen, and what did you learn from it?
One of the things we do up here are kind of like stupid human tricks. As astronauts, we want to try to really use microgravity to our advantage. So we'll try to, the other day I just started doing somersaults and I wanted to see how long I could keep going before I would bump into something, which is more challenging than it sounds because of course if you impart motion into any direction, you will start moving that way. So you have to be really careful with your movements and just kind of start spinning in order to stay in place. We have ventilation up here too though, so sometimes you end up moving around. But things like that are just a lot of fun to experience up here in microgravity.
Hi, my name is Sinead. My question is, how do you balance your personal life with work when you live at your job?
That's a really tough question, and I have a challenge with that when I'm back on the Earth too. I think what is really important is making a little bit of time for yourself every day. One thing that I've sort of made into my routine is every evening I try to go and just sit quietly by one of the windows and look out at the Earth for 10 minutes just to kind of center myself and give myself a little bit of time to think. And also I try to give myself some time every night to call my family back home to connect with them. But yeah, we live up here and we work up here, so it's really important to make a little bit of time for yourself.
Hello, my name is Lainey, and my question is, did seeing Earth from space change how you think about the world?
Absolutely. It's very difficult for anybody to have this privilege of seeing the Earth from above and not be changed. And I think Chris mentioned one of the first ways, and that's seeing how connected everything is, these continuous land masses and oceans, and realizing that we have one planet and we are truly all in this together. Secondly, I think most people have quite more of an environmentalist type attitude and standpoint after being up here. I was a very staunch environmentalist before this mission, but when you look out the window and you see that thin, tenuous band of an atmosphere that Chris spoke about, you know how fragile and beautiful our planet is and that we must protect it. And you also see how planet Earth is alone in the big black void of space, which is really, really quite minuscule in terms of our solar system and in the universe. And that gives you this perspective of, that perspective shift to appreciate what we have and to realize that we are quite insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Hi, my name is Miles. My question is, what is one way you've seen an object react in microgravity that would be impossible to replicate on Earth?
Well, there's actually some really cool physics effects that you can see in microgravity. So this one is due to something called the intermediate axis theorem, where this little thing here flips back and forth and up and down as you spin it. And that's not something you can easily see on Earth.
Hello, my name is Jack. My question is, what skills turned out to be surprisingly useful as an astronaut?
I think Chris already spoke about the most important one, and that's the skill of teamwork. But things that were surprising, sometimes people think about all the different types of things we do, like fly airplanes and do spacewalks as astronauts. But it's a lot of the little things that we do for our daily operations, fixing things, taking things apart, putting them back together, fixing the toilet, changing a light bulb, because we don't have a plumber or an electrician to call to come up here and help us with that. So we become really jacks of all trades, which is maybe not something people really appreciate about astronauts.
Hello, my name is Lena. And my question is, when trying to become an astronaut, did you experience any setbacks? If so, what made you persevere to try again?
Great question. So, I think all of us, every astronaut has experienced a bunch of setbacks. I know for me personally, I applied to be an astronaut 3 different times, and it was only on the last time that I got accepted to be an astronaut. And, it's one of those things where you kind of have to keep your motivation and keep pushing through. I think it's really important to not let getting bad news stop you. I think it's important to use that as motivation to try even harder for the next time. And I think that that perseverance can get you to where you want to get to. So don't, never give up.
Hello, my name is Malik John, and my question is, how are unexpected technical problems handled during a mission?
That is an excellent question because we have unanticipated problems all of the time. And I think maybe that's what we should have said with the most important skill of an astronaut, and really that's flexibility. Being able to adapt to the unexpected and remain flexible so that you don't get too rattled or too upset by something, and just getting ready to deal with it. We, I think, have that in our training. You know, we have a lot of training for the big ones, like if we had an emergency, a fire, or a depressurization. We have a lot of training on that, and actually some elements of a memorized response, so that training just kicks right in and we know what to do. We have our ground teams to help us solve problems, and that's one of the most important things about how we operate on the International Space Station, is we have these hundreds and thousands of people working on the ground to help us solve those problems. But really just being ready to remain flexible and adaptable and to take the problems and solve them as they come is something that we do every day up here.
Hi, my name is Constantine. My question is, if you're in space during the wintertime, can you see winter storms or even the Aurora Borealis from the International Space Station?
Yeah, absolutely you can. Actually, one of the really cool things about being on the space station is that we're orbiting at an inclination of 50 degrees. And that means that we go actually from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere every single orbit. And so actually, like every day, you can see both winter and summer, depending on whether it's winter in the north or winter in the south. And we can definitely see storms. You can see clouds covering. What's actually even most impressive, so you can see storms during the daytime, and it looks like clouds over a big area. But if it's a big snowstorm, the next day you can see just the entire countries blanketed in snow. And if it's nighttime and there's lightning, you can see lightning flashing in the clouds, which is just absolutely beautiful. And you can definitely see the aurora up here. It is just one of the most incredible sights. These ribbons of green and sometimes even red colors when you're sort of near the North Pole or near the South Pole, both Aurora Borealis and Australis, depending on where you are in your orbit. It's just absolutely breathtaking.
Hi, my name is Leonidas. My question is, what are all the training stations that you need to go through, and what's the easiest and hardest?
We have a lot of different types of training before we come up here as astronauts. Flight training, learning how to use the spacesuit, learning how to operate the robotic arm, learning about all the different space station systems, and even Russian language training. And I would say it's probably a different answer for everybody. You know, some people feel like they're not that strong at languages, so learning how to speak Russian is the most difficult thing. I would say that universally, probably the most challenging thing that we deal with is learning how to do spacewalks. As you can see, we have these spacesuits right here. They are very cumbersome. You weigh over 400 pounds when you're in here, and it's all pressurized. So it's a lot of work, both mentally and physically, to learn how to use these spacesuits. But it's also incredibly rewarding. Chris and I did a spacewalk in March, and we're about to do another one in a couple weeks. So stay tuned, and you can watch us do it.
Hi, my name is Sabrina. My question is, what is the most beautiful thing that you've seen in space?
That's a tough question because there's been a lot of really beautiful things that I've seen from up here. But I would actually have to say the northern lights are probably up there. We had what's called a geomagnetic storm where the sun shoots out lots of particles and those come in and hit the Earth's magnetic field. And back this past January, it made the northern lights glow so bright that it looked like we were just surrounded by this orange, red, green glow that was just dancing. And that was just an absolute incredible sight. But I will say, every time I look out the window and see a different part of the Earth, man, there are just absolutely incredible, beautiful things about every part of our planet. So that's also just absolutely breathtaking every time you see it.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Mather, NASA's only Nobel Prize winner for measuring the heat of the Big Bang with a team of 1,500 people. And thank you to the astronauts on the space station. Your work is leading to exploring the moon and Mars in person and with robots. And courage to the students, you can do it. Go NASA!
Thank you so much. It's really been our pleasure, and these were amazing questions. We're so sorry that we didn't get to the last couple, but maybe we can send down some answers on email to you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes our event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.